Hello everyone, welcome to the channel Tech Journey with Ankit. In this quick tech session, we will see how we can generate an OTP using a Lightning Web Component. Moreover, we'll also put a condition on that OTP to disable the button for the next 30 seconds as soon as the OTP is generated. So let's go and deep dive into it by the live coding session. So in this quick tech, we are generating this OTP generator where we do have one component named as OTP generator, and on that component we do have a button that is generate OTP. On the click of that button, we will be generating an OTP of 6 digit. Again, we are making the length of the OTP here is configurable, and also as soon as the OTP is generated, we are disabling this button for the few seconds, and after that, again the configurable seconds has been passed, our button will be enabled again. So let's go and check how we can implement this practically as well. So to get started, let's go and create the Lightning Web Component. To do that, Control-Shift-P on the VS Code and select the option Create Lightning Web Component. Let's give the name to the component as Generate OTP. Click Enter. Right, your component will be created. So let's go and split the screen in two. In the first screen, we will open the HTML file and keep the other screen for the JavaScript. Here I am putting one lightning card, and on the top of that I am putting one lightning button. So let's go and put the lightning card, putting a title as OTP generator, putting an icon name as custom 14. Okay, and as I said, on the top of that I will go and put one lightning button. So here I go and create a first division, putting a class is equal to SLDS, where P around small. In the first division, let me go and put the lightning button. Okay, I'm giving the label to the button as generate OTP. Let's go and add a few more attributes to this button, like the variant is equal to brand. I'm putting the JavaScript event here on click, and I'm naming a function here called click handler. Right, so here I go and put the click handler on my JavaScript file. Now, to generate the OTP, we'll be primarily using two functions here. First is the math.random. This function, it will give you any number which is greater than 0 but less than 1. So here it will give you any number which is greater than 0 and less than 1. And another function that we'll be using here is the math.floor. This function basically it will rounded up the value and give you the final integer value. Okay, it will round and it will give you the final integer value. Let's go and try to understand both this function on the JavaScript playground. So here I'm opening the JavaScript playground, and first function that we will see here is the math.random function. So to do that, I'm using the console.log and putting here the math.random. You can see whenever we use the math.random function, we'll get the value which is greater than 0 but the less than 1. Right, here as the value is always starting with the 0, right, I want to multiply this value with 10 so that I get the first digit here. So I'm getting the value as 6. Now I want to round it up this value with the integer number. So to do that, I'm using another function here called math.floor function, and here I will get the rounded up value something like this. Right, so every time I run this function, I will get a random value, and with the help of math.floor, I can round that value into the integer. Now we have to use the similar analogy in our LWC component as well. So to perform this operation, what we have to do here is first we have to go and decide what should be the length of our OTP. Right, that is the first question that we have to answer. What should be the length of OTP? So to decide the length of the OTP, what I am doing here is I am putting one class member property here, and we allow the admin to decide what should be the length of the property. So here I am putting the API decorator, and I'm putting the OTP length. We will go and expose this property to the app builder so that admins can decide what should be the length of the OTP. So as we are using the API decorator here I go and import the API decorator. Right, let's say admin have given the OTP length something as, for example, 5. Okay, now what we have to do here is we have to create one loop. We have to run the loop as many times the OTP length is there, and we have to use the function called math.random and math.flower to generate the value that many times, right? So what I am putting here is for loop, and let me put here let I is equal to 0, I less than whatever the OTP length that has been configured. So this dot OTP length, and I will go and increment this loop by 1. Okay, in this loop, what we have to do here is, as I said, we have to use the math.random and the math.flower to generate the value. And to store the generated value, I'm defining one temporary array. And let me put here the array name as the OTP array, and I'm initializing this array with the empty value. So we will go and put this generated value into this array. So to add the entry inside the array, there are again different ways to do it, but here I am using one of the commonly known way, that is the push method. So I am using the OTP.array.push and to add the value inside the array. Right? Once my array is ready with all the random values, what we have to do here is we have to go and generate this value. For example, if I go and run this code inside the loop, let's say inside the playground, let's go and test this only this piece of code inside the playground. So for example, here I'm changing this value to the hard coded value, and we will see what kind of value we'll get from the OTP array. So here I go and put console.log OTP array. You can see we are getting some random values here. Now the next thing that we have to do here is I have to convert this array into the string. To do that conversion, I am using the join method here, right? And I'm putting the, I want to join it without any spaces. So I'm putting here the something like this, right? And you can see my value from the array is converted into the string. Let's go and apply the similar analogy into our example as well. So we do have the array where we do have the random values. Let's go and store this value again into one of the class member variable, and I'm defining this variable as a generated OTP value, and I'm initializing this value with the blank. So whatever the value that has been generated from the loop, I am putting this into this variable by using the join method. So OTP array dot join, and I'm joining this with the without any spaces. Right now, I do have the generated OTP value. Let's go and put this value on the HTML element. So I'm creating another div to show this value, and let me go and put here the value, something like this. Right, whatever the value that has been generated, we will show this value here. Now the only thing that is left here is we have to go and expose this property to the app builder. To do that, we have to also expose our component to the app builder as well. So I'm navigating to the XML file. I'm putting this is exposed to true, defining the targets here as an app page. Right, to expose the property, we have to go and define the target config as well. So I'm putting here target configs. Inside the target config, I'm defining the target config. For under the target config, we have to go and define the targets, and here my target will be the lightning app page, because on the lightning app page only I'm exposing my component. So my target will be here the lightning app page. So on this app page, I have to expose one property. So I'm putting here the property. Now the first thing that we have to go and put here the property is the property name. So my property name must be the same name what I have given with the API decorator, and this type of properties will be referred as the global properties in the JavaScript. We have to also define few more attributes for the property, like we have to go and specify the type. Let's say I'm putting the type as an integer. We have to also we can also specify the label. Let's say here I'm putting the label as enter OTP length. In case you have to put few more details, you can also write down the description here and put enter OTP length between 3 to 6 digit. This will help the admins to understand this particular, what is the purpose of this field. If you want, you can put few validations here, like the minimum length should be 3, maximum length should be 7, for example, and the default value, in case you want to put something, you can also go and put the default value as 6, right? Like this, you can expose a property to the app builder. Let's go and deploy this component and we will check the output now. So to deploy this, I'm making a right click and clicking on the deploy button. Okay, so my component is deployed here successfully. Let's navigate to the org and open the app page to configure this component. To do that, click on this setting icon, click on the edit page. You will be navigated to the app builder. On the app builder, you can add the component on the page. So this is the component that we have created. I'm dragging and dropping this component here. Okay, let me drag it one more time. You can see this is the component that we have dropped, and this is the property that we have exposed. As the default value we have put here as 6, we are getting here the value as 6. Whatever the description that you have put, that will be available here, right? So let's go and save these changes here and navigate back to the page to check whether the OTP is generating as expected or not. So I'm clicking on this generate OTP button. You can see my OTP is generated here. Right now, the next functionality that I want to put here is, as soon as the OTP is generated, I want to disable this button, and also I want to let the user know that this button will be disabled for some particular seconds. After that second has been passed, we will again go and enable this button. So how we can implement that? Let's go back to our editor. To do that, as we have to disable the button and enable it after the certain interval. So what we will do here is we will go and put another property here, that is the time duration. For what time duration we have to go and disable and enable this this button. So let's say I'm putting the time duration in the seconds. So let's say I'm putting here the value as 30 seconds. Okay, so make sure that this value, whatever the value that you are putting here, that value must be in the second. I'm initializing this value to the 30 second, but we can also make it configurable from the app builder. So next thing that we have to do here is, as soon as the OTP is generated, we have to go and disable this button. So here I am using attribute called disabled attribute, and here I am putting another property called disable button. Initially, this button will be enabled, so I am setting this value to false, right? But as soon as the OTP is generated, we have to go and disable the button. So here I am disabling the button by setting the value to true. Next thing that we have to do here is we have to also run the timer. So to run the timer, we will use another flag, that is the show timer, and I'm initializing this flag to false. Right? Initially, this value will be false, and as soon as the OTP is generated, we have to make this timer to true. So here I go and modify this value to true here. Right? We have to show the timer on the UI. So what we will do here is we'll go and create another division here. And here, let's say I'm putting the timer text. Okay, and I'm initializing this text with blank. And let's say here I have to show that timer text. Whatever the text has been generated, we will show that timer text here. Now, as I said, we have to go and generate this timer text after the certain interval. We have to remove this timer text after the certain interval. To do that, we will use this time duration. Okay, so I'm putting this timing duration into one of the local variable. Let's say I'm putting this into the variable called seconds remaining, and I'm putting this value here called this dot time duration. So this is the variable that we do have in the timer duration. Now here we will use another JavaScript function that is nothing but the set interval, because we have to enable the function and we have to execute a function for a certain period multiple times. So we can use another JavaScript function here called set interval. So to use this function, you have to use here set interval. Okay, and this function, it will take the first parameter as the callback function and second value as the timer value, after which the function should be get called. So let's say here I want this function should get called after every 1 second, but here the value that you always defined, it should be in the millisecond. So here I'm putting the value as 1000. Thousands means nothing but 1000 millisecond is equal to 1 second. So after every 1 second, this function will be called, and whatever the logic that we execute in this callback function, that logic will be executed. So the first thing that I want to do here is, here I want to go and decrement this value by 1. So on every second, this value will be decremented by 1, and my timer text will be updated. So let me go and put here the timer text is equal to, and here I'm putting the value as to generate next OTP. wait for how many seconds will be remaining, we will go and put that value. As we have to generate, let's go and use the string interpolation operator here, so that we do not have to perform the concatenation operations and all other operations on the string. We can directly dynamically populate those values. So seconds, right? To generate next OTP, wait for this many seconds, right? Now, after the timer has been finished, for example, let's say here the seconds remaining value will be 0. What we have to do here is we have to come out from this interval. So to do that, what I am doing here is I'm storing this interval into one of the variable. Let's say I'm putting this variable name as a countdown interval. Okay, so as soon as the second value is 0, we will go and clear this interval and we will come out from this function. So here I am checking that if the seconds remaining is less than equal to 0, then we'll go and clear the interval, whatever the interval that we have created. And the remaining thing that we have to do here is we have to go and enable this button. So let me go and enable this button. Disable button is equal to false. And another thing here is we have to go and hide the timer as well. So here I go and put this dot show timer is equal to true. Sorry, show timer is equal to false. Okay, so let's put a quick revision what we have done. So we have generated the OTP. After the OTP has been generated, the next thing that we are doing here is we are disabling the button and showing the timer, right? That's what we are doing in this 2 line. After that, the next thing that we are doing here is we are starting the countdown, right? And this, as soon as the countdown has been reached, right, what we are doing here is we are enabling the button and stopping the countdown. So here what we are doing here is if timer reaches to 0, we are doing 2 things: enabling the button and stopping the countdown, right? I believe it should work as expected. Let's go and deploy this functionality. Okay, one thing that we can do here is to make this code more generic, we can also ask the admin to configure the time duration as well. The way admin is configuring the OTP length, another thing that admin can do here is he can also go and configure the time duration while configuring the component. So again, it should be an integer, right? Let me put the label as enter time duration. Description I am putting here as enter time duration in seconds. Let's say minimum times that value that I want to put here is 30. Maximum value that I want to put here is 30. And the default value, let's say I'm putting here as 15. Okay. So let's go and deploy this and check this functionality. So here I go and deploy this. Okay, before we go and deploy this, another thing that we can do here is we can also format the output to look much better. So to do that, I'm using the SLDS classes here. I want this output value should be in some bigger size. So I'm using the SLDS text classes. So SLDS text, let me put here heading as large so that my OTP should be generated in larger size. Another thing that I want to do here is I want this timer should be in a red color. So again, I am using the text class here, SLDS text, and let me give the color to the text and as a red color. And also I want to increase the bit size of the text. So here I am putting the heading as medium. Okay, let's go and deploy these changes now and we will check the final output. Okay, so my changes are deployed successfully now. So let's go to the org and validate our changes. First, we will go to the app builder and check whether the new property is available or not. That is for the time duration. If I go and click on this component, you can see that now new property is available as the time duration. Let's say I'm setting this time duration value as the 15 second and clicking on save. So let's go back to check the output. So if I go and click on this generate OTP, you can see that my OTP is generated, and moreover my timer is also running, right? And as until and unless my timer goes to 0, this button is disabled, right? If my timer reached out to 0, here my button will be enabled again, and I can generate the another OTP. Okay, so if I go and click on here, again my timer will be get started. Thank you, folks. That's all I do have for this quick tech. For such quick techs, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel, Tech Journey with Ankit. Thank you.